the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, welcome back to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast, where I am trying to spread awareness about what it is like living with chronic disease. I have been living with multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. I talk about my journey as well as the journey of other chronic disease warriors from all over the world. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, whatever format you are watching it on, YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. Today, I am talking with an MS warrior from the state of Oklahoma. I met Beth a couple weeks ago on social media, TikTok, and we just hit it off. I loved everything that she had to say. She's actually was in the mental health field, worked a lot in the mental health field, and I really appreciate that, being that I did that too in the prison system. And Beth is an Oklahoma Sooners fan, and we met during the week that Michigan was playing Oklahoma. And we talked a little smack to each other, and I felt,
Yeah.
I felt a little bit, I felt, I fell a little bit short with my team coming up on the losing end. So I got to give props to the Oklahoma Sooners. But please welcome to the podcast, Beth. How you doing today, Beth?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you, Beth. Anybody that wants to come on and talk about their journey with their MS diagnosis, I appreciate that, because the more people want to talk about it, the more we're going to learn about it. So, I mean, anybody that wants to come and talk about their journey, I am all for it. So, Beth, I know you got diagnosed in '07, and can you kind of take us through your journey of when you got diagnosed, what kind of symptoms you were experiencing that led you to go see a doctor because you knew something wasn't right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. I was all in green and was teaching a class um, when all of a sudden my left eye went blind and really scared me. And I called my eye doctor and he said, "Well, come right now and we'll look and see what's going on." And I got there and they took me right in. They dilated my eyes and were looking. And then he went and got another doctor, and the other doctor came in and looked at my eye, and they said, "You need to go to the Dean McGee Eye Institute. Um, we think you have a brain tumor."
Wow.
And so I was really scared.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it was scary. It was scary. And I got to Dean McGee Eye Institute. They did a bunch of tests, and then they made me go for an emergency MRI. It's like 8 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
And anyway, I had to wait all night long to find out, what the results were.
Sure.
And so I was really worried because the last thing I heard was,
Brain tumor. Yeah.
brain tumor. Yeah.
Right.
So, of course, your mind is racing and you're thinking, what all is that going to mean to your life? And am, am I, am I in trouble? Am I going to die, or, what's going on? And so the next morning, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I get a call from a doctor that says, "Hey, you have multiple sclerosis and you need to go to the hospital. They're waiting for you. You need to go now to the hospital, and we'll admit you
And that was it.
and start you on." That was it. Told me over the phone. There was no formal,
Wow.
"Well, listen, I hate to tell you this," or, I mean, there was no
I'm gonna stop.
sympathy or empathy.
I'm gonna stop right there, Beth. I mean, that is just unbelievable that a doctor actually did that to you. I can't even imagine. I mean, I got that news face to face with the neurologist, and I got all the opportunity to ask him questions. I cannot imagine back when I was 27 having a doctor telling me that over the phone, and then just basically just hanging up on you. I can't imagine what you were going through mentally on that.
Yeah, it did affect me mentally, to be honest with you. It felt cold and very uncaring, and I got my stuff together and went to the hospital, and I was admitted, and they
Hmm.
started me on steroids, and the steroids made me really, really sick, and they had to give me a lot of different medicines to help me not throw up, and I was really sick from the steroids.
Yeah.
And the eye socket itself, where I had optic neuritis,
Okay.
and so it was really swollen, and they were worried that my eye was going to explode.
Wow.
So they were having to hit me pretty hard with steroids
Yeah.
to try to get the swelling down, um and it did. It took 7 days. I did get my sight back,
Thank God. Yeah.
in my eye. Yeah,
I know
but
I went through similar with my my initial episode too. It was eye related. And my vision went all whacked out and they put me on the steroids. But thank God I had a good reaction to the steroids. I didn't have it didn't make me sick. The only thing I got from the Solumadrol was that metallic taste
yeah.
for days after and while you're doing it. And then I couldn't sleep. For whatever reason, man, I had
Oh, I
insomnia.
couldn't either.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can never sleep when I get that. It's that Solumadrol, but I didn't. It didn't make me sick though, like it did you. That sucks.
Yeah, and it was kind of weird because they were giving me all this stuff for my stomach to keep me from getting sick. Um, but I couldn't sleep either. I went like 3 days and hadn't slept, and
Yeah,
they had to give me something to make me sleep because I wasn't sleeping. And I couldn't stop thinking about what is this going to mean to my life,
right.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. You're wide awake. Yeah, you can't sleep, and you got this new diagnosis, and you're sitting there just with nothing but thoughts going through your head. I totally get that, Beth. And
Yeah.
it's a stressful time. Until you can wrap your head around what the hell's going on, and it, and you just got to calm down. But that initial couple of months, I'd say, is really like you're just trying to figure out what is going on with my body. I don't understand why I can't see. I don't understand why I'm walking, I'm tripping. Yeah, it's a mental drain going through that.
Yeah, it was, and I would have episodes like I was driving and couldn't remember how to get home, and I'd be driving and couldn't remember how to get to my job, to my office.
Mhm.
And it was weird. It would just happen all of a sudden. There was a couple of times I was teaching a class, and my assistant was in the class with me, and she saw me stop talking, and she saw by my eyes that I looked like I was lost,
Mhm.
and I couldn't remember why I was there and what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was things like that really started making me feel afraid,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And I didn't want to tell anybody either, because I thought they're gonna think that I'm losing it, or they're gonna not trust me, or they're not gonna feel like they can come to me for help, because of the job that I had.
Yeah. Right.
And it was really hard to, you know, um, let anybody know that I was having issues.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because yeah, because I mean, I was looked at as someone who had answers, and I was the person people came to for help.
Right.
So it was hard for me to admit I needed help.
And now you're the one. Yeah, absolutely, Beth. I recorded another episode with an awesome MSer out in Massachusetts by the name of Jonathan, who was in a similar situation as you. He worked in the mental health field his whole career, and then he got diagnosed with this MS. And it's just so different. You're on one side of the fence, and now you're on the other, and it's hard to process that.
Oh yeah, it really is. And it's lonely because unless you have multiple sclerosis or a chronic disease, you can't really understand what it's like. And it's like it hangs on your over you all the time. It never lets you forget it's there.
Oh yeah.
And I think I told you one time I look at it as it's like a bully who bullies you,
Mm-hmm.
and tries to intimidate you and make you small.
Right.
And you're not small, you're still who you are. You're just different now,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and I know we talked a lot about the attitude. You got to have an attitude, and how
Yeah.
when I got diagnosed and I was 27, and I think that was a good thing that I was young. I mean, it sucks that I was young, but it's also a good thing because I had that attitude. Like, oh hell no, man! You're giving me a chronic disease. Oh no, no, we're gonna fight this thing, and
Yeah.
that's just kind of been my attitude the whole way with it. And I know that where you're at now, it's hard to get to where you're at though, the mental part of it. Just talking to me a little bit about after you got diagnosed, some of the issues that you had to figure out, Beth.
Well, thank you for, asking me about that. It's good to have someone who understands and who wants to hear what you have to say. And that's a really healthy thing for people to have someone that they can go to, someone that understands. And there are so many people that have multiple sclerosis or other chronic diseases out there, and you don't realize how many are out there till you start looking. And it's good because it's like you have a whole tribe of people that understand. They understand how sad you get. Like I had issues with sadness. Sometimes I would be so sad. And when I say sad, I mean like grieving, where you feel like someone's died
Yeah.
and you get the ache in the chest and the ache in your throat and you're just almost on the verge of tears and there's just so much hurt and it feels like someone has passed away. And what it is your brain is has that chemical reaction to multiple sclerosis, in the brain, and it causes all these problems with your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't really talk about that part of it, that there's ups and downs with multiple sclerosis,
Yep.
and it affects your mental health, and you have to stay really grounded. You have to find something that really grounds you. Sometimes it might be your kids or it might be your family.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was God. God was who grounded me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was grateful that I had that in my life because I went through a lot of stuff, a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. I just had lots of issues. I started having I think I told you that I had MS hugs,
Mm-hmm.
where the muscles all, you know, um,
Contract.
spaz out. Yeah, they spaz around your heart and your lungs. It's very painful,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you feel like you're having a heart attack,
Right.
and it's scary. And I have MS in my spine and in my brain stem. And so, they have been hitting my MS very aggressively because of that. Um, and so, I've been told that I was going to die a couple of times already. But, I think just being stubborn and saying, you know what, I'm not ready to go. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to end what I've started in life. And I've told you a lot of times when we've talked that I had to have a purpose, that people need purpose
Mm-hmm.
to keep them alive and keep them going and keep them fighting the fight.
Yep.
And it is a fight. It's a tiring at times, but the good thing about having friends and making acquaintances and having people like yourself that they can talk to that understand, it's like when you're tired, they can hold you up a little bit,
Yep.
you know? They're there to say, you can do it, you know? And when they need somebody, you can be that person to say, you can do it. You're going to get this, you know? And you do have to learn how to do things differently, and it's sometimes it's a challenge, there's people that can't use their hands anymore. I have a friend that plays the piano, and he's been very upset with one of his hands because he can't play the piano but except for one hand.
Mm.
So he learned to get a dowel stick and was playing part of the what he was doing with his mouth, and it sounded like his other hand was playing.
Yeah.
And so people find ways to do the things they love,
Yeah.
and for me it was art and writing, and I delved into that, and it became my therapy almost. And a lot of the art that I do, you can see the emotion in it. I poured all my emotions into colors and shapes and things that represented how I felt inside. And it was things that like that people have to find. They have to find a purpose. Like I said, it it
Yep.
it really makes a difference.
I agree with you, because I mean, even from the date that I was diagnosed, I was working, so I had that was my purpose. I got up every day for my kids, for my wife at the time, and for my job, and I had a purpose. And then when I lost that purpose of being able to work, and I lost my 20-year career, it took me a while. I mean, I went into some dark places, I mean, I went into
Yeah,
a bad depression for 2 years. And I know that's part of this disease too. And it happens to a lot of people. But then
yeah,
I found another purpose, and I had to make accommodations and adaptations to figure all that out. But you always have to figure something out. I found this podcast thing. This has been my last thing that I've found that this is my purpose now. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you run into roadblocks, and you gotta do a reset, and you gotta figure it back. You gotta figure it out again.
yeah. I mean, really, if I were going to tell someone the secret, the real secret to making it with this disease, it's that you get to reinvent yourself.
Hmm.
And it's actually quite a joy to do,
Hmm.
to reinvent who you are. You get a restart in a way.
Yeah.
Whoever you were before the disease, you still are, but now you're different and you've changed, and you have to reinvent yourself. And that is the biggest thing you can do, and letting go. I've also learned you've got to let go. You've got to let go of all the preconceived ideas that you've had, all the things that, you thought you knew. And you really have to be your own advocate. You have to really research the disease. Don't be scared of it, but research it, learn about it, find out why it does what it does.
Yeah.
Find out what medicines are out there. Ask questions. That's the biggest thing you can do.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
You know?
Ask a lot of questions. That's something that I didn't do when I was, young in my disease. For a lot of reason, because there wasn't a lot of availability. There wasn't the internet back then. In the early 2000s,
Right.
I couldn't Google anything. But yeah, another thing is I was a guy. I was a young guy, and I had an attitude, and I didn't want to admit to anybody that things were getting tough, like whether it was physical or mentally. There was that stigma, and there still is a stigma about the mental part of it, the mental health part of it. And I'm sitting here today, 28, almost 28 years in. I'm going to be starting to say that regularly now. The mental part of this is way harder than the physical to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gone from tripping to using a cane to using a walker to using a wheelchair, back to using a walker, back to using a wheelchair, using a cane, and the pain and all that. And I can deal with all that, but the mental part of it, That's the hardest part, dealing with getting up every day and it's never going to go away, dealing with the social issues that we have, whether it's our relationships with our spouses or significant
Yeah.
others or our kids or our friends. I mean, that's the hard part. That is the hardest part to me, is the mental part of it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I also think too that um, people that are spouses or partners with someone who has this disease really need care too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not just us, but they also need care and
Yep.
they need support
Yep.
and they need other people that they can talk to, that have the same issues. It's really important to find a support. And unfortunately, the way the world is, the best place to do it is social media. And I
Mhm.
tell you what, my life really changed when I got on social media and I found thousands of people that have MS,
Yeah.
thousands of people like myself. There's thousands of us out there,
Yeah.
and we're not alone. We're an army, if you want to think of it that way.
Oh, yeah.
We're a whole bunch of people that's fighting this fight, and all of us have so much in common. Like I told someone the other day, there's not a day goes by I'm not in pain. I'm in pain with my spine every single day.
Right.
And sometimes it's so bad, I can't hardly stand up straight.
Right.
And those are the days that I know I have to do a lot of self care. Those are the days I know, look, I may have said I could meet you or go somewhere with you, but I can't. And I don't want to I don't want to have to keep apologizing to everybody
Right.
and say, I'm sorry I can't. I'm sorry I can't. I can't do that. I don't feel well. I mean, you get tired of saying it.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I became very reclusive
Hmm.
because I didn't want to have to keep telling people no.
Yeah.
And you never can predict how your body is going to be from day to day.
Right.
And so, it wears you down and it wears you down mentally.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah.
there's yeah, yeah, it's important. It's very important to
You,
talk to your doctor if you feel low, if you don't feel right, if you feel, like you want to hurt yourself or you want to do something that isn't what you normally would do,
right.
you know, um, self-harm, whatever, because, that chemical reaction in your brain is not your fault. MS is not your fault.
Nope.
You didn't do anything to deserve it,
Nope.
and I know people have said, what in the world have I done to deserve this? I've had people say that to me,
I've
like
heard it.
asking me.
I've heard it. I've thought it myself too. I mean,
Yeah, I
to
have
tell you,
too.
yeah. I mean, back when I was 27, 28 years old, going, early, I'm like, what did I do wrong? Did I eat something wrong? Did I not exercise right? What did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this? I don't understand it, but it is it was a humbling disease too, because it opened my eyes up,
Oh yeah.
Beth.
Mm.
It really opened my eyes up just to appreciate people for who they are, not for how much money they had or for what kind of social status they had or how famous they were. I didn't give a shit about any of that anymore. About
Yeah.
anybody, I really, it really made me appreciate people for who they were, not what their diagnosis was.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how about you, but I know for myself, I don't want to be looked at and everyone see multiple sclerosis. I want them to see me.
Yeah.
I want them to see Beth and say, "There's Beth,"
Yeah. Right.
you know, God love her, she's still got that red hair. I just want that instead of saying, well, there's a multiple sclerosis patient or she's got multiple sclerosis. I don't want to be known for that. I want to be known for that I loved people, that I was there, that I listened, that I cared.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's what I want to be, remembered for too. I did that. I've always been a good person. I've always been fair. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what country you're from. I don't care what state you're from. You got a chronic disease. You're my friend. I get it. I
Yeah.
understand it. And I wish the whole world was like that and just accepted everybody. But unfortunately, we're not. But I can do my small part and do what I can do and just treat everybody that like they want to be treated. I get it. I understand it. I've been there. I've been treated like that. I hated it, and I'm not going to do it to anybody else.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that too, because, um, you know, I know we have this disease, but, you know, without the disease, I would still be your friend. I would still, like you. And I would still like all the people I've met so far because I see their heart. I see who they are, like you said. And it doesn't matter what color, it doesn't matter what, what you believe. It doesn't
Hmm.
it matter what political party you belong to. It doesn't, none of that matters
Right.
because when it comes down to it, it's going to be you and God in the very end anyway.
Absolutely.
And, you're born alone in a way and you die alone in a way. But, you can't take all the worldly stuff with you. It stays right here and, I'm like you. It's like none of this stuff matters. What matters is your peace. And I have said this over and over and over. Peace is the greatest thing I look for because peace is how I heal. And it's how we all heal. If you have multiple sclerosis, you need peace. You need to find a place where you can be at ease, where you can be at peace, where you can heal, because you do heal when your mind and your body at those times, like we've talked about you going fishing and being on the lake,
Mm.
that's your peace. Mine is being outside with animals or working on an art project.
Hmm.
I'm at peace. Those are the things that we all strive to do to bring our peace about so that we can heal, so that we have a chance for our body to relax and our mind to say, I'm going to be all right. Because when your mind's in the right place, a lot of times your body follows.
Yeah.
And
Abs-
it's amazing how powerful your mind is.
It is,
Um,
and I do a lot of, mental therapy. I've learned this back when I played at Michigan. We did a lot of visualization. Bo Schembechler used to have us the day before the game, the night before the game. He'd be like, visualize, you playing in the game tomorrow, or making a block, making a catch. If you're a receiver, running a touchdown. If you're a running back, visualize yourself doing something good. And I use meditation and I use visualization all the time. And I've kind of
mhm.
developed that, and more as my disease has progressed, and I use my mind to help me with this disease. You got to figure it out, whether it is, like you said, art or writing or, any kind of thing that get your mind off of this. You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. I found podcasting, just meeting people and talking to people as my therapy. You just got to figure it out. You got to figure out what puts you at peace and enjoy it and enjoy whatever you can to the best of your ability and keep on plugging.
Yeah, and I encourage people to journal if they are able to, because journaling your feelings and journaling how your day went, and you may think, oh, I don't have anything to say. I don't know how to do that. But it's amazing what comes out once you start writing. And it's for you. It's not for anybody else. It's for you.
Yeah.
And I sometimes write letters to God. I've said to God, I'm angry at you because I have this disease and I don't know why you allowed me to have it, but and then I've gone back and said, I'm sorry that I felt that way because I really am not angry at you. I'm angry at myself because I felt like I did something. And then I had to go back and rewrite and say, I'm not angry at myself anymore. I realize that this is a disease that has no um, qualms about who it chooses. It chooses the rich, it chooses the poor, it
Absolutely.
chooses the big, the small, in between. It doesn't matter,
Doesn't.
what you have. It hits whoever it hits, and it's just happens to be I'm one of those people, and you're one of those people.
Yep.
Now we have to deal with it. You can't ignore it, and
Nope.
ignoring it doesn't go away.
No.
It gets worse. So it's better, like you said, to hit it head on and say, all right, I'm taking control.
Yeah.
And I've talked to you before about how one of my biggest issues was I didn't have any control, that my control was taken from me with this disease. And I didn't like that.
Right.
And I kind of got an attitude about it, and said, you know what? I am going to control what I can control. And I realized I could control my mind, and I can control how I feel, and I can control, that I go to the doctor and I tell them what I need and I expect them to, have an answer for me, and I'm always looking for an answer.
Yep.
So, like I said, the biggest thing you can do is be an advocate, your own advocate.
Yep.
I treat myself like I'm my own big sister, and I take up for myself and I do the things that I would do if I had a little sister, you know? So I kind of look at, that way.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Beth. I know you've been dealing with this almost 2 decades now, and you've had relationships. Um, um, Talk to me about dealing with the relationships in this disease, and just a little bit about your experience with that.
Well, I've had, I've, I've been married, and then divorced. My husband that I just divorced, he did not want to see me die, and he did not want to see me get worse, and he said he couldn't handle it. And so we parted ways, and it was very hurtful, and it hurt me deeply,
Yeah.
because of all the promises that he married me knowing I had MS. I never hid it. I always, before he asked me to well, actually, he asked me to marry him, and I said, look, I can't even give you an answer till you go and read up on multiple sclerosis. I want you to read it. And I sent him passages of stuff that I found on the internet to let him know what can happen, what to expect.
Right.
I said, no, you need to take this all into consideration before you ask me to marry you. And he said, I just made a, a $3,000 donation to the MS Association in your name, and I want to marry you. Will you marry me? And I married the guy, thinking that I did all the right things
Yeah.
by letting him know ahead of time, trying to get him to read about it so he doesn't get involved with me, not realizing what it could turn into.
Yeah.
And it still didn't work, still failed. And it's still a sore spot in my heart. But I've dated several people since then. I tell them up front that I have multiple sclerosis. I tell them sometimes I walk with a cane, sometimes I walk with a rollator. I also have a wheelchair. I said, I let people know ahead of time. And there are people that don't want to deal with that, and
Yeah.
they leave,
Yeah.
and I can't even be mad at them for it. And that's why I think it's important to be honest with people up front that you have a disease, because they need to know that. And you would want to know that if it was the other way around.
Yeah.
So you have a choice whether you get involved or you don't.
Yeah, I know
But
when I went through a divorce, I was about 15 years into it. I think I knew her for 17 and we were married for 15. And I started the dating world, I was scared. I'm like sitting here going, I don't even know how to date anymore. I don't even know how to meet.
yeah,
I don't even know how to meet a girl now, being 42 years old at the time. And I turned to the internet. I went on Match.com, and I actually had a lady that we met at a bar, and I've said this story before, and I bought her a drink, And I told her I had MS, and she got up and walked out. And I was just like, wow, okay, that's cold. But at least she told me, I mean, I guess,
Yeah.
I flipped it into a positive after I drank her beer. Um, that she walked up and left on, and I'm like, well, at least she told me, and I didn't get invested in her. But yeah, when you get invested into somebody, and you try to tell them, and then it's 5, 10, or 13 years down the road, and now they don't want to deal with it anymore. It just hurts. It hurts. I can't.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very hurtful. We were together 12, and um it was really hard to um I still hurt over him, but you know what? I've moved on in my life, and
Yeah.
I have to think about
Me. Yeah,
other
you. You
things.
gotta think about you,
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta pick I mean, and I say this all the time, Beth. I mean, you're gonna get kicked with this disease. It's gonna be by the disease. It's gonna be by things that are around you from this disease, whether it's just social things that just happen. You're gonna get kicked, and you just gotta figure out a way to get back up. I got back up after my divorce. I found my wife now, and and you move on. And so
Yeah.
I know some people that, after they got kicked, and or they went through a divorce, they say, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to do it
Yeah.
anymore. I'm not going to even put myself in that position. And you got to figure that out on your own.
Yeah, and it's everybody's journey is going to be different. Everybody's story is going to be different, and everybody has their own life to live. And certainly, what happened to me is not going to happen to everybody else. But it's nice to know that if it does happen to you, you're in good company with all the other people that it's happened to.
Exactly.
And it could, in a way, I think about it, it's good to know who a person really is comes out. Whoever a person is, who they are inside, what's in their heart eventually always comes out. And if a person wants to bail on you at a stage that you need them the most, it's it's hurtful, but it's also a way of cleansing people that are toxic out of your life,
Exactly.
because toxic people will kill you.
Yep.
Toxic people steal from you. They steal your joy, they steal your peace, they steal your health. And it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. And I believe, that if they do it to you and they profess their love and they still do it to you, they're going to do it to whoever else they find next,
Yeah.
or in the next person.
Right.
So, I mean, it's it's not you, it's them, and you have to remember that.
Yep.
It's not you, it's them.
Yep.
They can't handle something, it's not your fault.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Beth, man. Even there's always going to be people out there that just don't understand. They don't want to understand. They want to remain ignorant, and you just got to pick yourself up and keep on moving. And you got to think about yourself. This disease, I mean, it's a very lonely disease. It's a solo disease, and in the end, you
Yeah.
are you are by yourself. Like you said, you come into this world alone, and you're going to leave alone with your God. And I totally agree with you on that, Beth. And you gotta advocate for yourself and keep on fighting for yourself.
Yeah, you really do. And it's not selfish. It's not being selfish. And you have to remember, because I always felt like I was being selfish, but you're not. You're being smart and you're being alive. You're keeping yourself alive. You're keeping yourself going. And it's so worth it if you will do that, because you will find purpose in your life and you'll find a new way of inventing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Beth, I appreciate you coming on and talking with me about your journey. Is there anything else that you want to share with anybody that is listening that's going through a similar situation as you, just to keep them motivated and to keep on letting them know that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Keep on fighting.
I love that. The sun is going to come up tomorrow and you are going to be all right. And no matter how it feels today, you're going to be here tomorrow and tomorrow is a different day. and you can start over every day. Today may not be good, but tomorrow is. And I just encourage you to find people that can be in your circle that aren't taking from you but are adding to your life. And if you have to tell people I can't do things, don't feel bad about it because it's all right. It's part of what happens with this disease. And I just want to encourage you to find people. Look me up. I look, you up. Find us on TikTok. There's a whole community,
Hey,
and you're more than welcome.
Beth, go ahead and tell them your username on TikTok. I will put that in the description if you want to follow Beth. She's really, really an awesome lady to talk to. A lot of knowledge. She, like I said, she worked in the mental health field. She was a counselor. Just an awesome lady to talk to. I've enjoyed the last couple of days we've talked off air. She's got a lot to talk about this disease and about living with this disease. But Beth, what do you go by on TikTok if they wanted to follow you?
It's Dr. Beth on TikTok, and you'll find me on there. And I'm would be so happy to be your friend and be so happy to have you as my friend.
I appreciate you, Beth. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can find me MS Michigan Man 64. You can also find me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64. And you can find me on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Until the next episode, MS Michigan Man 64, I am out.